Imagine a guy named Jake. Jake is 29 years old, and he works as a sales coordinator in a mid-sized company. He earns about $4,800 per month after taxes. On paper, Jake is doing everything right. He finished college, landed a stable job, shows up on time, and his family thinks he's set. But every month, around the 25th, Jake opens his banking app and feels the same quiet tension in his chest. His balance is sitting at $312, rent is due in 5 days, and that's where the confusion begins. Because Jake isn't reckless, he isn't lazy, and he isn't irresponsible. So why does it feel like he's running but never actually getting ahead? If we rewind a few years, when Jake landed his first job earning $3,200 a month, he told himself that once he got close to $5,000, life would feel comfortable. Now he's there, but what changed along the way tells a different story. His rent climbed from $950 to $1,650, his car and insurance went from $420 to $680, groceries rose from $280 to $520, subscriptions and phone costs grew from $90 to $220, and he still has a $410 student loan payment. His total fixed costs now sit around $3,480. His income grew, but his breathing room didn't. This is the first emotional moment, confusion. Because the promise sounded simple, work hard, earn more, feel secure, yet reality quietly disagrees. Here's the hidden truth Jake slowly starts to notice: he is earning money, but he isn't building wealth, and the system treats those two paths very differently. Earning money means trading time for income, while building wealth means owning things that grow without your time. One depends on your presence, the other depends on your ownership. Jake was trained his entire life for the first path, but almost nobody explained the second. Jake did everything society rewards. Predictable students get good grades, predictable workers get steady promotions, and predictable borrowers get approved quickly. Predictability feels responsible, but here's the contradiction: the system rewards predictability because predictable people are easier to model. Banks can calculate you, employers can budget you, and companies can market to you. If your paycheck lands every 2 weeks and your bills auto-pay right after, you're not just stable. You're forecastable. And forecastable behavior is extremely profitable. When Jake bought his car, the loan approval took about 10 minutes. The loan amount was $24,000, and he'll pay roughly $3,900 in interest over 5 years. Nobody asked whether the car would increase his earning power. The only question that mattered was whether he would keep earning enough to make the payment. Now imagine Jake applying for the same amount to start a small online service business. Suddenly the process is harder, riskier, and full of uncertainty because the system prefers predictable repayment over uncertain growth. This is where confusion slowly turns into frustration, not explosive anger, just the quiet realization that something feels tilted. When we zoom out, it becomes clear that institutions aren't villains, they're optimized machines. Banks profit from steady payment streams, companies profit from steady employee output, and markets profit from steady consumption habits. Unpredictable people break forecasts, and forecasts are how large systems manage risk. So the system naturally nudges people towards stable jobs, regular spending, and long payment timelines, not because it's personal, but because stability is profitable. One evening, Jake grabs coffee with his friend Daniel, who earns less, about $4,100 a month, yet recently invested in a small rental property with partners. Jake asks how he managed it on a lower income, and Daniel shrugs and says he stopped focusing only on what he earns and started focusing on what he owns. That sentence lands hard. For the first time, Jake clearly sees the gap: income pays for today, ownership builds tomorrow. The emotion shifts into a quiet anger, the kind that whispers, "Why did nobody explain this?" If we visualize the difference, Jake's current path looks like this: he earns $4,800 a month, receives about 5% raises, and saves roughly $300 a month. After 10 years, he might have around $36,000 saved, helpful, but not life-changing. Now imagine he channels $900 a month into something productive, like a small online business, a digital asset, or a partnership investment. Even moderate growth of 10 to 12% yearly dramatically changes his trajectory because the asset grows without requiring more hours. That's the key distinction: savings rely on discipline, but assets rely on time. The biggest obstacle Jake faces isn't money, it's identity. He always saw himself as a reliable employee, a responsible spender, and a careful planner. But wealth builders tend to see themselves as allocators, owners, and builders. Employees optimize for security, while owners optimize for optionality. Security feels safe, optionality feels uncertain, and humans naturally choose certainty even when it limits them. Jake doesn't quit his job or chase risky bets. He simply changes one question. Instead of asking whether he can afford a payment, he asks whether it will increase what he owns. He downsizes his car and cuts his payment by $320 a month, then starts freelance sales consulting on weekends and brings in an extra $600. Now he has roughly $920 a month going toward building something. This is the empowerment moment, not because life suddenly became easy, but because he finally sees the levers. 5 years later, Jake is 34. His salary has grown to $6,200 a month, but more importantly, his small online business generates about $2,400 a month in profit. It's not flashy, but it covers half his living costs, which means his paycheck is no longer survival money, it's strategic money. Psychologically, that changes everything. Jake isn't trapped anymore, he's flexible. The system itself didn't change. Loans still target consumption, employers still reward predictability, and markets still encourage spending. But Jake learned something powerful: you don't escape the system by fighting it, you escape by changing your role inside it, moving from participant to partial owner. The big insight is simple. Earning money is linear, more time usually means more income. Building wealth is exponential, time plus ownership leads to compounding results. The difference isn't effort, it's direction. You can run very fast on a treadmill and still stay in the same place. Today, Jake still works, still earns a salary, and still lives a normal life, but the anxiety at the end of the month is gone. Even if his paycheck stopped, his life wouldn't collapse. That's real freedom, not luxury, not hype, just breathing room. If there's anything to take from Jake's story, it's a few simple perspective shifts. Income is survival, ownership is leverage. Predictability is comfortable, optionality is powerful. Payments reduce flexibility, assets create flexibility. The goal isn't to stop working, it's to reduce dependency. Small perspective shifts can create massive life shifts over time. If this story made you look at money a little differently, that means you're starting to see the invisible rules most people never question, and awareness is where change begins. If you enjoy calm, story-driven finance videos like this, consider liking the video and subscribing. I'll see you in the next one.